on a early morning in Heartbeats. Charlene, who is a dark-skinned, black-haired woman, is outside of her octagonal house doing some light clearing of brush and dead flowers. It's the end of summer and it's going into fall, and while she doesn't tend very much to the flower shop that it used to be and is now her home and office, she does like to make sure that any of the old buds or anything that needs to be cleared away, like vines growing up in places they shouldn't be, are cleared away. And as she's going around this house, she happens to look towards the train station, which has been quiet for a while because Heartbeats is on the end of the line and not many places or people come this way. And she notices there's no one standing there. In a bit of panic, she goes inside and digs around for the white plastic board that, still in the shaky handwriting of their friend, I totally blanked on his name for a second, their friend Jeffrey, from when she first arrived in Heartbeats several months ago. She grabs it and dashes out of the house, picking up her long skirts as she goes. Yes, hello? Hello there? Hi! Sorry, we didn't see the train come in. And she holds up the sign in front of her and says, Welcome to Heartbeats!
Thank you. See, Rahzara, sometimes people are nice when they welcome someone. And he's talking to
You mean you just randomly walked up the train tracks like a vagabond out of some Disney movie and they said, "Oh, look at you, poor creature. We better take care of you."
Hey, I don't look that disheveled. Do I look disheveled?
There's no shovels around.
I don't know, I can't see you.
If that's what you mean. But the word disheveled is a very good word. I do use it sometimes in my writing. Did you mean to come to Heartbeats? You sound a little unsure.
He doesn't need to go anywhere at this point.
No, I don't. I don't. I didn't take the train, actually. I just kind of came on around, but it's not super important. Thank you for the welcome. Your name was Charlene?
Yeah, I'm Charlene. I'm the town reporter, and I'm also the backup for the welcome committee. Usually we wait for a train to show up, which is why I was taken a little bit by surprise, but I'm glad you're here. You say you didn't mean to come, and that's actually kind of common around here. My friend Jacques was the same way, and now he's in charge of all the town's finances, but that's another story entirely. Do you want, like, a town tour? Maybe we can find you a place to stay till you figure out why you're here?
Yeah, tour sounds nice. That'd be real good, actually. I don't usually get to see my way around where I'm going before I go. So,
sure, absolutely.
Hazards of using a magical artifact to travel around and not knowing where you're going.
Charlene's eyes light up just a little bit. There's a twinkle in her brown eyes, and she goes, Is that a talking magical artifact?
You would think it, wouldn't you?
I mean, I have a magical artifact, but mine doesn't talk. Mostly I talk to her, and then sometimes she decides she wants to listen.
I am not a watch!
I don't know, you look pretty watch-like to me.
Only because you're goddamn blind, Trevor. I'm talking to you. It's like I don't know. Do you guys have walkie-talkies here? Cell phones?
I have a television.
The sending spell?
Well, I also have a telephone, but I don't have to call people much these days because I usually run into them throughout the day, so I don't really need to call them anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's like a telephone.
Kind of. Well, yeah. It's a telephone, definitely. Definitely is what it is.
Well, nice to meet you both. We could do introductions on the way. Do you like coffee, tea? I might be able to get some juice.
I coffee.
Great.
We live off coffee. My blood is mostly coffee at this point.
Such a shame that I can't pour coffee through the watch directly to you.
That's sad. Small town coffee's good, man.
It's really good. We grow our own beans. Sometimes they get a little too what's the word? Overripe, and then they start jumping around and have ideas of their own. But if we catch them before they become sapient, they're really good.
I take it back. Trevor, you can drink all that coffee all you want. I will stick with my nice, normal, non-sentient coffee over here. I'm having fun. I'm having fun.
There's a difference between the words sapient and sentient. We tend to use sapient because they don't actually talk to us, but that's neither here nor there because you can't have any of it. Come on, this way.
Fair enough.
I like this new one.
There's only a certain type of person who just sees some kid walking up a train tracks and just go, hey, I'm the backup for the welcoming committee. Why do you need backups for a welcoming committee?
I think it's time we stop asking questions and start getting some coffee.
So past
right.
the first few buildings, which you can see are kind of quaint cottage style. They're in bright colors. They have usually like clay or wood roofs that are also painted in all sorts of wild colors. After about what seems like a block and before it opens up, there is a bakery and cafe on the left, and Charlene leads the way inside.
Tref would follow and just kind of, right before he walks in, just kind of says, like, to the watch, like, it's really nice here. It's been 5 minutes, and nothing's been happening. This is new.
I mean, just you wait. Small towns always have, like, evil cults somewhere in them.
Our track record for violence is pretty high at this point. Hopefully we break that today, though. And he kind of walks in and just goes, this is your local cafe?
Well, this is the local cafe. We also have a bakery, but that's down the other way, and I thought this was the best way to get you coffee. Hi, Kimberly. Could I have a really, really big cup of coffee? No cream, no sugar, just how I like it, and also like a regular size one for my new friend here. What did you say your name was?
Oh, my name's Trevor.
Do you have a preference of Trevor? Sometimes people try to call me Char, and I tell them no, it's really Charlene. So I always like to ask.
Whatever. I have no preference. But I do.
You can also call him Potato Boy.
Where did that come from?
Because you're a potato boy.
No, stop. He lowers the watch and just kind of says, like, I do have a preference for the coffee, though. 2 creams, please.
Perfect. Well, we don't really measure them. Okay, just like,
just cream and sugar.
Some cream.
Just cream. Yeah, some cream and
some sugar, and yeah. Okay, great, thank you. And Charlene pulls down this. If Starbucks had an even bigger size that was like half a person tall, that would be the size that Charlene has gotten, and it comes with its own big paper straw. And a lid on it. And she goes, thank you, Kimberly. Just put it on my account. We'll settle up at the end of the month. By the way, I have some great roses for you. And then when there's a much smaller, more reasonable sized coffee, she hands it directly to Trevor. Okay.
He takes a seat wherever Charlene would lead. If they're walking, they're gonna walk. But if they take a seat in the cafe, he'd just follow her lead, basically.
Come on, we're gonna go sit in my house because it's a little bit comfier, and also, I know the last time my table's been cleaned. I mean, I love Kimberly, but also, like, little neat freak over here. Come on, it's just right around the corner.
Okay.
And as you go out the doors of Fluffy Eats, you see that there is indeed a octagon-shaped building that has almost like a little lean-to shop that is just covered in flowers and vines, and there are other things up and growing around the house, and window boxes and all sorts of weird shapes. It looks like maybe it was cobbled together as a house with a little shop on the side, as the years went by and it was kind of built as they could afford to upgrade things. Come on in. This was given to me by the town after the last incident where I was given a town and then something happened and I went somewhere else, but also it was in the past, but also then it was in the future, and then I ended up here. But we're pretty sure it wasn't like time travel or anything like that because that doesn't exist around here. So, yeah, come on into my house.
Yeah, we're just gonna come on in. We'll address that later. He talks to the watch like he's almost have to shut Rahzara down. We'll address that after I drink my coffee.
The door opens.
That's an after coffee issue.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I love that line. That's a good line. Charlene opens the door and kind of gestures for Trevor to go in, and it's a soaring inside that has like 1.5 levels or like a level with a loft, but in the middle of the house is this giant cast iron printing press. Come on in, have a seat. I was doing some housework before I started writing some articles for the day. Did you say what brought you to town?
No, I didn't. We'll talk over coffee, but is this a printing press?
Yeah.
I've only seen them in books.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Well, except for the part where then I started working for a newspaper and then I had this really big thing and that's a whole nother story. We're not going to get into it. Today is about you. Yes, this is my printing press. Yes, I am the only journalist in town, and yes, I do print all my own work, which means it's not peer reviewed. But since it's mostly just town gossip and a couple of feature stories, maybe an interview or two, people don't seem to mind.
Oh, okay. He takes the seat like as close to like the closest seat to the press as possible, and he is just like enamored. This is very intriguing to him. He's like, and you could hear him whispering to the watch, like, this looks like something we'd see in history. This isn't. Whoa.
Dang. It's like something you'd see out. It's like seeing like a dinosaur, you know. Like I'm here holding my laptop and tablet, and then you're over there, you know, with something older than like any of our teachers.
True. Any of our teachers? We do have some elves. That might not be true.
Yeah. But this, it's close. It's close.
Sorry, we do that. He says to Charlene, he's like, we tangent, I apologize.
Oh, did you say something? Sorry, I was trying to figure out where I put my copy of yesterday's paper. Here we are. And she hands you, what is clearly a hand, what's the word? Letterpress? I think it might be letterpress. She hands you a newspaper that is definitely printed one letter at a time using the printing press. It's probably not much bigger than a book, and it has, like, you know, the 4 sides. It's not large. There's a couple of drawings that got put in, but it definitely looks like something out of what we would think of as, like, the 17 or 1800s in real life. You know, when the printing press was first going around and newspapers became a thing, but before they got really big.
Right. So is this is old for you, right?
Yeah. So the paper that I came from had like 4-story printing presses, and I didn't have to do my own printing and lettering and figure out which one's the J and which one's the P, or is that the Q? Yeah, I've gotten a little bit better about recognizing letters backwards, but I didn't have to do this back in the city. But that's the price of anonymity, I suppose. Now I do everything myself. Keeps me close to the ground, to people, the stories.
Yeah. He kind of takes a sip from his coffee and just goes, so, as for myself, Rahzara kind of gave the lead, but this watch here, and he would, like, kind of show it to her as much as he could from their distance, and just be like, every now and then, it charges up to full, and I am shot somewhere else, and then I hang around there, sets me to full, and then I get shot somewhere else.
Gosh, that must be pretty lonely. Like, I mean, I've done undercover work before, but at least I had all my own stuff.
I haven't been at it much. I haven't been at it too long just yet, and Rahzara's smart, and she's working to get me home, so it'll work out.
Attempts are certainly being made. Comically long sip of coffee. You can hear over the watch.
I know you can do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you came to Heartbeats. I hope that your time here is calming, although I don't know that getting you coffee and calming in the same sentence really goes together.
I needed this, you have no idea.
Well, I am happy to provide. Is there anything else I can help you with while you're here? I mean, we can always get you a room. I don't have an extra bed here, but I know the guy that runs the inn for however long it takes your watch there to recharge.
That'd be nice. Beforehand, though, you do journalism?
Yeah. I've been a journalist for about as long as I can remember. So I've wanted to tell stories, and especially about people, for as long as I can remember. Actually, take that back. I think I was 7 or 8 and there was a train involved, but like I said, that's a story for another time. I was in the big city doing a big story. It was undercover, and I was really good at it. So good that I got to secrets that I probably shouldn't have, and then I published them. And then a cult came after me, and so they decided that I should get out of town, and by out of town they mean as far as I could go, so I've kind of sort of been on a declining retainer in Heartbeats for a couple of months now. And I've just decided to start my own paper and send stories back to my editor in the hopes that they'll continue to pay me and let me know when it's safe to go back. Although, I don't know if I want to go back.
I mean,
that's a story for another time, too.
Hmm. Well, I guess you got a point there for the cults, Rahzara.
I do. I'm always right, though, so...
Oh, they're not here in Heartbeats. If they were, I'd have to leave.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Yeah,
so,
hopefully I left them behind.
I hope so, too. So you do interviews and stuff?
Yeah. In fact, I do more interviews now than I think I did in the big city because, well, the people here, they don't mind telling the same story or coming up with new stories. In the big city, people tend to not want to answer questions and not ever sit still for very long. It's a lot easier here.
Yeah, so this whole thing started because of a class project. Rahzara and I go to school together. So we were...
You can make an argument that I go to school and Tref just tags along with me, but, continue.
Our whole thing was about, I was supposed to use the message cantrip to... Are you eating right now?
I am 100% eating right now. Okay. I've listened to this part so many times.
You know what? Fair enough. Yeah, so Rahzara and I, we were doing a project. The whole point of the project was to send a spell that could communicate with someone through either the past or future and basically conduct an interview. And so when you said time travel isn't a thing, that was a little weird. But it kind of fits. You seem to be in the what I would call modern day too, but so are we. So something's off here.
How many times do I have to tell you that we can only travel? Oh, no, we can't travel. That we can only send a message to the past because of, paradox reasons.
Right.
The message cantrip can only go backwards. Anyway, yeah. That.
Yeah. Still, though, weird. It sounds like your city's pretty much modern, but I haven't heard of anything like this before.
Well, heartbeats...
I mean, we're not experts on geography. I'm a time wizard. I'm not a geologist.
No, you're not.
That's really funny, because a friend of mine totally got called a time wizard once for literally also pulling out a watch in the presence of a giant raccoon king. You know, I'm really gonna have to sit down and tell you all of these stories one of these days, but somehow I think your school project isn't giving you enough time for that.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem so.
Well, there's a little bit of an added point to this. Because this is not... Anyway.
Well, no, what do you mean?
Well, the point of the project was to, send a message back, talk to someone for maybe like 10, 15 minutes, ask some questions, then you stop the time travel. But no! We stole the wrong watch.
We did. We did do that. But you're the one who didn't want to ask because you didn't want to get in trouble.
You're the one who didn't grab the right watch in the first place! I told you, Eddie.
We share the blame. Sorry. This happens a lot. Anyway, you were telling me about doing interviews.
It's just fun because, I have a friend like this too. Except for, I'm more like your friend in the watch. And he's more like you are. Huh. I'm sure I'll unpack that later. So, yes, interviews. I can teach you the basics of how to interview someone, and if you'd like, you could then maybe I interview you so you know what it's like to be interviewed, because then you'll know how to put people at ease when you finally get around to your class interview project.
That sounds like a great idea. And
Okay.
you said there's also some other parts in town you wanted me to see, so we could walk and talk maybe. I don't know.
I actually have a slightly better idea. We're going to take some notebook paper from here and a couple pens and pencils. I'll show you the town, or at least the parts that will go on the way. And then we're going to go up to the top of the hill up by the Aurora Pantheon Temple. And we can sit underneath the big tree and we can kind of observe the town and the river. And yeah, it's just a really lovely place. Way, way nicer than this old place. Besides, I don't have much room for a big table here with the printing press.
Do you eat on the printing press?
I mean, I bought it and I had a friend assemble it, so I guess it's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Come on.
Fair enough.
Let's go get some
All right,
notebook
let's
paper.
go. Okay.
And do you want to go through the town, or do you want me to just, 1,000-foot view fly them over to the hill?
You could show one or two things that you think are especially cool.
All right. Charlene leads the way back out of her little house shop printing press area and back into the main thoroughfare. More people have started to wake up now that it's a little bit more of an understandable hour. Over here, and she points at the large building that has the side profile of a sheep that is on the sign that hangs overhead. That's the Sheep's Head Inn. We'll go ahead and get you a room after we're all done with the whole interviewing thing, and you can stay as long as you need. Also, it's okay that you have, your telephoned watched thing. The guy that runs it, Jeffy, he understands magical talking artifacts. In fact, he has a talking mimic bed in one of the rooms. They're super nice, though, so you don't have to worry about them eating you. They just like their sleep.
That's it.
Huh.
I think maybe Rahzara will finally find a friend.
I'm sure... Potato Boy, I'm pretty sure that the mimic swarm that takes the form of a bed would be more entertaining to talk to than you.
Wow, okay. You were saying, Charlie.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the Sheep's Head Inn. It takes out most of the block. But over here, and she points to the other side, that's the general store. That's owned by Casper. Whatever you do, don't go in the basement and make sure you don't have any open food when you go in there, because reasons. Okay.
Is he a ghost?
Why would he be a ghost? I mean, he's
Never mind.
Pale and tall, but no. I've met his kids and his wife. Anyway, over there is the post office, and that's, you know, I think that might be in flux, because had a different sign on it last week. Okay, up and across the bridge we go.
Okay.
I don't know anything about the bridge, so we'll just skip this part.
Yeah, you're good. I feel like he's, like, if there's a moment where they're just walking, he might just go to his arm and be like, this is probably the nicest place I've been. Yeah. I actually kind of hope the watch reload time is slow on this one. I wouldn't mind spending a night here.
They walk up the hill, and it's a nice, leisurely slope. And at the top, you can see there's a giant tree that has some fading red flowers around the base. And there is a small, but still nice-sized temple up at the top. Okay, so let's find a spot that there aren't too many blooming flowers, and we can just sit in the shade and have a chat about interviewing.
Okay. I'm ready to learn.
Okay, so when we think about interviewing someone, I always like to think that everybody has a story to tell, but not everybody knows that other people want to hear their story. So when you're interviewing someone, it's important for them to realize that in the moment, they are the most important thing in the world to you. And that might look like eye contact. That might look like looking at the tip of their nose, and she points at hers, because it makes it look like you're making eye contact even if you're not. That can look like writing down notes and nodding along. There's a lot of things that can go into that first rule of making them feel like what they have to say is important. Because as you're asking questions, they're going to start telling a story, and you get to piece it all together later, because the way that people talk is not the same way that we read. So part of it is about knowing how to talk to people, and part of it is knowing how to take what they've told you and put it into the words that they meant.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well,
oh, what you explained it. It's not the way people read, right?
Correct. So if I were to say, write down the conversation we're having right now, I wouldn't start with two people sitting on the side of a hill. I would start with the sounds and the smells and what is happening around them, and then talk a little bit about each of the people that are there, and not just say two people sit on the side of the hill and have a conversation, the end. That's not a story. That's just boring facts that don't have any life in it. That's the story crafting part of journalism and interviews that a lot of people overlook, let me tell you.
Okay, so I think I get that. All right, what's next?
I mean, the other thing that you have to realize with interviewing is not everything that they're going to tell you is going to be important to the story you're going to tell. This is where we get a mix of journalism integrity and showing people's best side. So if I were going to tell a story about the person that runs the Pantheon, I wouldn't start out by saying an exact transcript of the conversation that she and I had the first time we met. Because an exact transcript isn't putting her in the best light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because, I mean, when you first met me and Rahzara were arguing.
That's a pretty accurate depiction. Fuck. That's a pretty accurate depiction of how we just exist, though. We'd be lying it would be a lie if we just portrayed us as anything else other than continually bickering with each other.
See, that is something that's very important about Trevor's story, is the fact that you also are in his watch. Sometimes, but probably not all the time. I hope you both get sleep.
We figure it out.
But I think that is important to realize, is that if you were to just talk about how you bicker all the time, that isn't the same as saying you're friends and you sometimes don't always agree on everything, and that your conversations that sound like bickering or sound like arguing are actually the way that you two communicate. That's what I would put in if I were to be interviewing you. Is that you are Trevor and you have a magical watch and you don't know how you got to heartbeats and you think it's time travel, but time travel isn't here. It's something else entirely, and that's a mystery that we don't really understand right now. And I also don't know how you have someone talking through your watch, so that's a mystery to me, but it's also important to your story. Right. So I got all of that out of the time that I've spent with you, and all of that would go into my interview when I actually write it down.
Right. Okay. And for you, I know that you came from the big city, that you're very good at what you do, and because you're able to tell someone so much about it, I know that it's something you really care about. Even though you've never said, I really care about this, I was able to pick that up from just how much you know.
Exactly. So, if you think about interviewing more like getting to know someone and what's important to them, and then taking that information and telling a story that's authentic to them, that will show the people side of your school project a lot better than just sitting down, asking 5 questions, writing down the answer, and handing that in. That is a form of interviewing, but it's not really what journalists do, and it's not what good interviewers do either.
Right. Right. Because at the end of the day, we just want to let people know that their stories matter, right?
Right. And that in that moment, them telling us their story was also important, and that it's important enough to write down and to have other people read.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I kind of get a better grip on this now, and why it would make sense to be in something that would involve some sort of time, you know?
Is it okay if I tell you a little story about something that happened to me that might help you with your interview and your story?
Oh, of course.
So, I've mentioned a couple of times that there was a point that I went into the past, and I thought it was just the past, because I knew who the people were, or I knew their names, but they didn't look like what they looked like in my time. And I helped them solve a problem, and we changed the course of history. And then when I looked in something reflective, it wasn't my face looking back. It was someone completely different. She was tall and had blonde hair and blue eyes and really pale skin. That's like almost the opposite of me. And when I came back to now, those people didn't know that I was there. because they only remembered that other face. But I had also gone into the future. Kind of? It's difficult to say. Because, like, the reason we found out it wasn't time travel is when we came back to the now. I was in my body again, and I looked in the mirror and I saw the same person, but I had different memories. I remembered things that I know I didn't experience, but that I did. And before this jump, whatever it was, happened, I was a very strict vegetarian. And then after, it didn't seem so important to me anymore. And I found bacon in my refrigerator.
I see.
While I think there was some dealing with the past, I don't think it was time travel, the way that I've heard people talk about time travel being possible, because that doesn't explain how I came back into myself when I hadn't been myself. But then I had different memories, and then I had different likes, but people still knew who I was, so I didn't change all of history.
I mean, you just kind of hear just like the clickety clacking of like someone typing or like someone writing down thing, and goes, I mean, the butterfly effect could theoretically compensate for small changes, and then you notice the changes when you come back. But why wouldn't you notice the things you affected change? There should have been a direct cause and effect, unless the chain of cause and effect was so long to change your own likes and dislikes that you couldn't figure out where it was. Plausibly.
There's another thing that happened related,
I mean,
but it was well after that. Something happened to Heartbeats. And I don't know how many people experienced it. But there was a time that I was looking around the town and all of the buildings were different.
someone is fucking with time in your... Maybe it's temporarily shifted out of the rest, so it's out of sync with time, which would explain why people just randomly get into a heartbeat, and is sentient magical time also causes sapience of... That's already established.
I think you're getting a headache, Rahzara.
I mean, this is I mean, I know that there's that in order to, when you usually fiddle with time magic, you have to have special things in your spells to not make the butterfly effect happen. Or if you're allowing the butterfly effect to happen, at least you have to keep track of like every single fucking thing you do, so you don't fuck everything up colossally. But temporal displacement, maybe? I don't know. I've never heard of anything like this, man.
It's definitely different from what we've learned, if that provides you any solace. It's definitely not the time travel we've heard, we'll put it that way.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not time travel at all. But I appreciate you guys putting your heads together about it. I've just come to accept that there are certain things about heartbeats that I don't think I'll ever fully understand. And living next to the magical line of wibbliness that encompasses pretty much everything about heartbeats, I'm kind of okay with it, because I think if I think about it too hard, I'm gonna give myself a headache.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too. So, but thank you. That's definitely something I'll think about, because if we run into something similar, I'll make a note of it and see how much it aligns with what you told me. Because so far it's been my face every time I've,
Well, as far as you know, I mean, your friend in the watch also seems to remember who you are, and nothing really seems to be changing about you. So that's good.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what I would do if you didn't know who I was.
That'd be ridiculous. You're entirely difficult to forget, unfortunately, for me.
I know you mean that with love.
I mean, it was something.
It sounds like the two of you have a lot to talk about and maybe theorize.
Maybe another time. Maybe when I get into my room. I don't mean to interrupt your conversation. You talked about wanting a practice interview or something?
Yeah. Okay. Let's try. I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself, and you can either make them up, or you can tell me truth, or a mix of both. It doesn't really matter to me, but I want you to be thinking about how I come across to you as an interviewer.
Okay.
Okay.
I will do my best to keep my mental note of that.
Okay. And it's okay to if you lose track of that and if you just want to talk about yourself. But I think that's part of the things that I learned about being a journalist is you have to understand what it's like to be interviewed to know what to do and what not to do.
Got it. Okay.
So we're going to do a mix of those.
Okay.
Are you ready, Trevor?
I'm always ready to try something new.
Great. Let's start with this. How old are you?
I am... It is a little difficult because I'm a half-elf, and so age works... I'm at exactly the age where age is hard to document, but let's just say in human terms, probably around 22, 21, something like that.
The time magic also interferes.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about how that question made you feel. Did you feel put on the spot? Like you weren't expecting it or you didn't really know how to answer it?
It's a simple question, but there's some complicating factors. So I'm used to the question. I just didn't know how much detail I should give about what makes it complicated for me specifically.
So what you're saying is it was a really bad question for me to ask right at the outset as the first question. Because it was complicated for you, and I didn't bother to know anything about you to know that it might be a complicated question.
Yeah, because I had to explain that I was a half-elf first, and then I needed to explain that I was displaced in time.
Right. So what some people think are easy questions, like, what's your name, or how old are you? Those things are not necessarily the best questions to ask because for some people those can be complicated. And so when you're starting an interview, be thinking about the kinds of questions you want to start with. Instead, it might be a little bit more of an easy question for me to start with. It looks like you're about the right age to be a student. And I also noticed that you have, I don't know, a look about you that you're always studying the world, and you have a backpack maybe, or you have pencils sticking out of your pockets. If I were to observe something like that and say, Trevor, I'd like to get to know you a little bit more. Can you tell me about what it's like to be a student? That might be a better first question. What do you think?
Yeah, because I could go off a lot more with that and tell you about Hakora and
okay, let's go ahead.
Friends.
Tell me about what it's like to be a student.
All right, so I'm a student at the Mage Academy at Hakora. It's a pretty big place. There's a lot of different students from a lot of different parts of the world. They all come to study different kinds of magic. I'm studying chronotherapy, and just like my best friend. And
Hi.
It's a little daunting because of how many people are there, and it's a big enough school that there's some expectation. but I still try to have some fun while I'm there.
That's awesome. What would you say is your favorite thing to do while you're at school? It could be more than one thing, or you could just have things you don't like or don't dislike as much as everything else.
I would say that my favorite thing to do is spending time with my friends, but I think probably behind that is figuring out new things. Stuff that's in a textbook is kind of hard for me to grasp, but when I get to like try something and kind of work through it, I have a lot more fun.
That's fantastic. Is there something that you've learned or worked through lately that you want to tell me about? I'd love to hear more.
Well, for this project, we were trying to make items appear from different points in our timeline. So, like, and also being able to set things back just far enough to fix a mistake. So that's something I was learning, and I think I practiced it by I threw myself down the stairs, and I would rewind it, and I was able to walk down them and make my trip look like a walk.
Yeah. You made a lot of noise.
I always make a lot of noise.
You could have just, done something normal. Just, dropped, something. Doesn't break, like a pencil or something.
Yes, but I had more motivation to protect myself.
It sounds like you two have a pretty good friendship. How did you get to be this close of friends that you call through the watch as you fly through different places the watch sends you?
Well, Rahzara is the one who figured out all the technobabble.
Partially. We still don't know the entire scope and capabilities of that thing. You know that, right?
We know enough to keep me going.
I think that's a great topic, but not quite the question I was asking. I was more asking about how did you two become such good friends?
Right. I mean, I met you first day of school, right?
Was pretty sure. Oh, it was close anyway. I don't know.
First week for sure.
You were in a you took Magic 101 and everything, right? You took Evocation, Elocution, and then you also took, Cartomancy 101, right?
Yes.
So he was just picking everything and just seeing what stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I already knew I wanted to go to Cartomancy because it's objectively better. And anyone who says Pyromancy is better is just, normal and annoying.
So yeah, I basically met her because she knew what she was doing, and I didn't. And I needed someone who knew what they were doing to help me out.
Yeah, there are a lot of group projects in Chronomancy. More than I'd like. Considerably more than I'd like.
So we ended up partnering off more than once because, well, she was stuck with me at that point.
Yeah.
And then around second year, we moved in to the apartment together, right?
Yep. Moved into dorms.
Mm-hmm. It just kind of worked out that way.
School's expensive. Gotta save money. We moved in, to be clear, we moved in with, 4 other people?
Yes.
There's 6 of us.
Yep. Hope it's not. Hope the gaping void that is me is not too profound.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. It's just this gigantic hole that we've just closed your door and just walk around it now. It's quieter. I can go to sleep easier.
So yeah, I guess you could say we've been friends as long as I've been here.
That's
here being
fantastic.
the class, I guess.
I know what it's like to fall into best friendship with someone that you've happened to be in the same situation, but want different things out of it. I definitely understand what that's like. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about questions not to ask. How did those questions make you feel? Especially when you kind of went into a little bit about your current situation when I was really asking about what your friendship was like. How did that feel?
I don't know. Not a lot of people ask me my history with Rahzara, you know? So I guess it wasn't what I was expecting the answer to be. Usually the watch is the headliner, but it felt good to remember those things.
And when I kind of steered the conversation more towards what I thought I was asking and not what you interpreted, that should have been a nice way to move the conversation, acknowledging, yes, that's a great thing, but also, here's what I really thought I was asking.
Yeah, and because I'm so used to people wanting to know about the watch and not really me or Rahzara, it was kind of a wake-up call that I was the topic of conversation, like who I am and not what I do.
Isn't that really important, though, that you care more about them as people than just the things that they're made up of? I think that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed talking about it. I know Rahzara is not the most extroverted, but I don't know. It was good to look back on. So, yeah. I think you got something there. Man, I'm realizing I was about to go about this project all wrong.
That's okay. That's kind of what being a student is about, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm just kind of figuring stuff out.
And I wouldn't admit it most days, but I think I'm right there too. I may not be a student, but there's always something for me to learn here in Heartbeats, and I've learned something today for sure. I've learned that people from other places entirely can just show up at the train station and somehow become wonderful friends.
I would say that you're probably the nicest person I've gotten the chance to talk to since this whole trip started.
I mean, your watch is not exactly the most friendly, so I'm inclined to believe you.
Blows a raspberry at the watch.
I banter and pick on Tref. That's it, end sentence.
My best friend of 3 years.
I mean, to be fair, you are very useful for doing the presentation for the group projects.
It's a natural thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, it's
Thank you for...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for this. I've learned a lot.
That's great. I'm happy to leave the two of you here. I'll go talk to Jeffy over at the Sheep's Head Inn. We'll get you set up. At least you'll have a place to hang out if you don't want to hang out up here, although it's pretty great up here, I have to say.
It's really nice.
Get back to doing some more articles. If it's all the same to you, I'll leave our conversation and your little visit out of it until maybe you come back and you're comfortable.
Yeah, that's good to me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This place is really nice. You have a really special town on your hands.
Well, sometimes you just fall into Heartbeats, and sometimes it wiggles its way in. Stay up here as long as you need, and I'll go get those accommodations ready for you. Bye, watch friend. Bye, Trevor.
Bye. Bye, Trevor.
Bye. Trevor,
Yeah.
Trevor, what the fuck is going on with the time magic here? Have you noticed any anomalies, or what the fuck? What was she talking about?
I don't know, but it's definitely not what we're used to. I'm inclined to believe her, though. Everything here looks like what a rural town over in our part of the world would look like, but she had no idea what I was talking about.
This makes no sense. What part? You definitely jumped back in time. Did you jump back in time? No, because the watch will definitely compensate for it.
Hey, don't stress yourself out too much, alright?
Trevor, your watch? Where does your watch gather energy from?
Magic?
Mm-hmm. So, specifically, it takes that magic and changes it to time magic to power you through, right?
Yes.
So what happens when the magic here doesn't work properly?
The watch doesn't work properly?
Ha-ha! Bingo! Ha-ha! Fantastic! We finally got there. There's a very real possibility that the watch could malfunction if it picks up this kind of time energy if it's not, properly calibrated for it.
Well, then it's a good thing we got that hotel accommodation, right?
I will work on my end to make sure that the next time you use the watch, half of you isn't left behind in heartbeats, or you just are trapped there forever, indefinitely, by some sapient time magic. I don't know.
You worry too much. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Hey!
Well, you could take some readings for me, if you wouldn't mind.
No, I wouldn't. You know that.
As long as I have data to work with, I got something. Anyway, I don't know. You can hang out and chill, I suppose.
Yeah. It was nice to talk about first year stuff again.
It's been a while.
Yeah. When I get back, we'll definitely, I don't know, go get something terrible for us and reminisce.
Something very greasy.
Oh, that's ideal. I think this place is all like farm fresh stuff, considering the ruralness, and oh my
Oh god, there's probably vegetables.
If I get a cheeseburger, if we go like 2 more stops without me getting a cheeseburger, I think I will scream.
You're gonna get transported back to medieval Faerun, where there's like roasted meat and that's it.
Hey, meat is meat. I have learned to stop being picky.
Well, if there was one benefit to this.
Hey, well before I time traveled. Have you seen the things that are lying around on my bedroom floor?
No, I don't go in your bedroom, Trev. What the fuck?
Then there might be expired chips.
Well, he's probably not growing. Oh god. Well. I'll clean those up later, I suppose.
Yeah. Hasn't been too long, right? I mean, it's only been 4 stops?
No, it's not been that long.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll make it back just in time. Don't worry about it. We're learning more about how the watch works.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you gonna try her strategy?
I think so. It makes a lot of sense.
Just
I felt special when she was talking to me.
Yeah. I'll leave you to it then. Have fun practicing interviewing people or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some interesting folks. Maybe I'll talk to that mimic bed.
I gotta work on some stuff. Make sure you don't die.
You always do.
Huh. Have fun.
Yeah, and thank you.
You're welcome.
And that concludes our show for this evening. We hope you enjoyed Episode 4, There Beneath. Tonight's story was told by the following incredibly talented people. Charlene was voiced by Jazz, Rahzara, voiced by Midnight Blue, and Tref and Rahzara, voiced by Biba17. Our lead writer is Biba17, and the editing of this episode was done by Biba17. Our theme song was composed by Zach at Schedule for Launch. You can learn more about the world of Heartbeats on iTunes and Spotify. And if you would like to stay up to date on all things Parallel to Anywhere, you can follow us on Twitter at P2Anywhere and join our Discord to be a part of our community. Thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you again soon, wherever that may be.
The infinite hallway has been closed. It took a year for an unlikely trio to manage to seal dozens of holes in the fabric of reality. But I can see the threads of fate. I know there is more in store for them in this world and in another. I see Kira Ashwood, the journalist who still bears the scars from her cult days, rising in great and terrible power. I see the supernatural social outcast, Mark Clayton, his abilities expanding and evolving, growing without limit, without explanation. I see the one they've yet to meet, a sorceress from between worlds, yet drawn to power and burdened by legacy. I see the extra-normal investigator, Casey Davis, but for the moment, I am one of the few who does. I can see what's next. I can see it all unfolding, each chosen path. How does it end? Even I don't know for sure. Join us on the Monsters Playbook.
The Monsters Playbook is an actual play Monster of the Week podcast with new episodes released every other Tuesday. Come check us out on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts.